Hello, everybody. Welcome, and we'll be getting started shortly. I'll just wait for some people to join. In the meantime, for any questions you have throughout the presentation, please post them to the chat, and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation in a little Q&A session. All right, welcome everybody to the release meeting for the release on the 24th of August. We'll go ahead and just get started. We had a lot of requests for setting a time preference only to a ticket. Before we could only assign an engineer only, and now we can decide to set just a time preference only. In order to do that, we had to redesign the scheduling assistant a little bit. So let's take a look at the new scheduling assistant. So first thing you'll notice is the switches at the top of the scheduling assistant have been removed. We replaced two of those switches with buttons. Simply callback where required and end user not reached. The other switches for assigning engineer only has been moved on here. So you can just switch this switch. Switched off is no engineer will be assigned, switched on engineer assigned. For set proposed appointment switch, that is now this little checkbox. When it's checked, it'll be a fixed appointment. When it's unchecked, it'll be a proposed appointment. Now, if you disable both these options, we give you a little warning that you're not allowed to save this without selecting one of those options. And to set a time preference only, you just simply enable this switch, pick a time, and you save the ticket. It'll stay in the ticket pool with a fixed time for your dispatchers then to later schedule it with an engineer and run the optimizer. On to the next one. Next one is we have default value sets. We have a new option to decide what is shown in the drop-downs for the fields that have drop-downs. And to get there, you want to go to the forms. For instance, here I have create ticket. And a good example here, oops, sorry, hold on. Forgot to share the screen. So you want to go to your forms area in the admin panel. And a good example here is the create form. And I want to limit the different categories you see here. As your account grows and grows and grows, you're going to have lots more categories. Maybe you don't want to use the defaults that come with Fieldcode. You have your own custom ones. You can just show those ones and not show the standard Fieldcode ones here. And just simply click on the eyeball to hide or unhide that selection. In this case, I just want these two to show. So you save it and save the form. Go back to Workplace, and you'll see here, now I only have two options available here, and that's premium and standard. The other options are hidden. That's a very welcome, and it works for all drop-downs. So if also an example, device category, if you want to limit the device categories for this project, you can limit that as well. So anywhere you have a drop-down, you can limit what is shown in that drop-down on that particular form. Very nice. So my favorite one of the release is when you're in a ticket, you have these little action buttons up here. And in the past, we didn't save these in the history, so you didn't know who set the escalation flag, who set the VIP flag, who assigned it to a partner, and who grabbed the ticket, and the opposites, who de-escalated, who unset the VIP, who didn't send the partner. You now notice we have a new selection filter here, user interactions. And whenever I do any one of these actions up top, we now add a log to the history showing the history. There we go. Showing the history of who did what. What is wrong with my... And then you see the entries are all entered here. And the escalation reason you can see here as well, rather than just hovering over here to see the escalation reason. So this is very useful. I think your dispatchers will love it. And your managers will love it because then they can see who did what at what time. So every interaction is saved. So that is a great one. All right, another good one is the ability to lock an engineer. You could always before lock an engineer here by selecting the lock engineer and lock the engineer to a ticket. We now offer it here in the timeline where you can right click on tickets and lock it directly from the timeline. And with that, you'll get a little message here that this ticket's locked. If you want to unlock it, right click here to unlock engineer. Another cool one is the map. We've added a few improvements to the map. You'll see as I zoom in, we had the car icon. So if your map's full of car icons, but you had no idea before which car icon, which engineer was behind that car icon, we now have a new popover that displays the name of the engineer, the business phone number, the business mobile, and the email address of your engineer. So you can see every case of every engineer that is on your map. Okay. Another one we have, I'm going to go to the notes for this one. We have a new web page that we can build into your account for you. At this time, you have to contact support for implementation, but basically what it is, it's a pre-qualification page. There may be some projects that require the expertise of an engineer to qualify a ticket before it gets sent to him. And as you know, tickets go through to the FMA app, and they have to have an appointment first, and there's no way for the engineer to look at a ticket without signing into the Fieldcode account. We don't want that, so we offer a new possibility where they can, as you see here, it's a new spot in the More section where they can check ticket validation and pre-qualified tickets. They can order parts or let the dispatcher know what parts to order for the ticket before it gets an appointment, before it gets sent to their app as an appointment to them. So this is a really welcome module for your accounts if you need that type of action in your accounts. So those are the big features. Let's go on to some of the improvements. Temporary durations for your engineers. You notice here I'm at a temporary location for the time being. Before, we had this before, it would just show temporary, but it wasn't showing how long that person was be there. The only way to do it, go into the admin panel and see the dates they're going to be, or you can click through the dates and see how long they're going to be at this address. We've improved it now, so now you can see right in the popover, you can see I'm going to be in this location from the 24th of August to the 31st of August. And once it's done, the next day, I'll be back in my normal location. So that is a welcome improvement. All right, moving on to the next one. We cleaned up the ticket infos here for you. The list before was a little unclear, so we made it a little easier to read. The ones with dashes are more static infos. These ones with arrows are going out to another system. So obviously this is info to a connected system. This is info to the customer portal for the customer to see. This is info from a connected system, and this is info from the customer portal. If you have enabled leaving comments on a ticket in customer portal, your customers or end users can leave a comment, and this will be that one. For the rest of these, we cleaned up the text a little bit to make it clear. Engineer delay, info from dispatcher to engineer, and info from engineer to dispatcher, internal infos, and internal infos with acknowledge. So that's nice. Moving back to the admin panel, we have included into the PUDA overview some new columns to help you see, and those two columns are the opening hours from and opening hours to. Before you had to go and click in here and then see when the opening hours from. We made that a little bit easier for you. So now we have it in the overview page to see the opening hours for these PUDOs. I'm going to go back to the workplace. Ticket info counter. Before, the ticket info counter would show all the ticket infos for every project, every ticket that had a ticket info on it, regardless of what dispatch group you were assigned to. We've now cleaned that up. So now it's only going to show the ticket infos of the dispatch groups that you are assigned to as a dispatcher. And I'll show you by example. So right now I can see Nuremberg and Stuttgart here. If I go back then to the admin panel and I just set a dispatcher, by setting one dispatcher here, my user, I won't be able to see that no more. So we're kindly reminded to reload the screen since something has changed in the admin panel. So I hit the reload button. In the meantime, I'll switch back to the screen. So now you see I have only two infos. I no longer see Stuttgart because I removed myself as a dispatcher from the Stuttgart dispatch group. So that's good. You're no longer, dispatchers no longer to be overloaded with ticket infos that they are not concerned with. So now that's a welcome change to your dispatchers. Let me just unhide that real quick. Let's go back here. And friendly reminder to reload. The next improvement is related to ticket infos as well. Before, we always would just show who created the ticket info. We've now included the date and the time of when this ticket info was created. It's a welcome change, makes lives easier. Going back to the admin panel. So we have added two more filter conditions for your filtering on forms. So we've added in, I can just show you on the notes here. We've added in ticket status and unsuccessful reason into, so now we have ticket status as a filter condition and unsuccessful reason as a filter condition to use for your filters in your forms. Very nice. And back to workplace. So before we had we wanted to reduce the back-end calls to refresh the ticket pool. My ticket pool is rather small, 12 tickets, but I can imagine that some of your ticket pools are quite large with a lot of tickets. And to call back and refresh this whole list of tickets costs a lot of CPU time. So in order to fix that, we now call back on an individual ticket level. So right now you see all these tickets, there's no refresh happening. To show you when you know when it's refreshing, I can just schedule an appointment real quick, and then you should see the little indicator that shows this ticket is refreshing by this little spinny icon here. You can see that just this ticket is getting refreshed. The rest of the tickets are fine. You don't need to worry about them. This ticket's getting refreshed at this moment. So you're not gonna be able to do anything with it. So as the ticket pool is sitting here, you may see different indicators of it refreshing. That just means that ticket is getting updated with some information. So that's very welcome. And it speeds it up as well because we don't have to check every ticket and all that. Check an individual level. All right, some of you may remember the cooperation partner. We did some improvements to the cooperation partner form here. So the first thing you notice is before, when you were reaching out to a cooperation partner and you wanted to make a connection with them, it was a little bit confusing because the wording was a little off here because we had active and inactive, but we didn't have anything for pending. So now we have this pending status. So you see, I reached out to my partner to make a connection, a cooperation connection with them. So now this is pending and I'm waiting confirmation. So now my partner's received the email to make a cooperation connection with them. You see on his side, he's also pending. So he'll go in here, he'll input his PIN, pick his project he wants tickets to go to, and then make his connection. And then it goes to active. So that's just a nice one. Another thing you may notice as well as we've changed the wording here. Before it was said type and it was contractor to subcontractor. That was causing some confusion. We had some feedback on that and we decided to update it to be more clear. We hope it's more clear for you. Now it's referring to the direction of cooperation, and this would be incoming connection. Tickets are coming into you as I'm the partner. So from my partner, you see it's outgoing, meaning I'm sending tickets from my company to his company. And yep, so this is outgoing and incoming. We hope that's much easier for you. Makes more sense than contractor, subcontractor. Let's go back to workplace here. Another one is when you do send a ticket to a cooperation partner. I don't have any. Oh wait, I do have some here. Before we had this publish button here. This is no longer there. It's just a little bug fix we fixed, but no more publish button there because it's with the cooperation partner. It's on their system. They need a publish button. Okay, another one. We've added a new status for parts. So now your engineers at the end of the ticket, after the end of the work, they can have the new wait for replenishment status. If for whatever reason they have a local stock that they're taken out of, they can set the part to waiting for replenishment until that stock is filled. That's a welcome one. Let's go through just some notable bugs. Ticket duration page here. We have now the project list listed. When you're using the project filter here, it wasn't showing the projects here. Now it's showing all the projects in the project filter. Going back to workplace now, we've improved the connection between the dates here and the different statuses. So now rather than seeing every ticket, everything is taken into account in statuses here. There were some issues with it not working correctly. Also, when you change the date here, it changes the date everywhere here as well. So everything's in line with the ticket pool, the timeline, and the map. We just made it work better together. Overlapping PUDOs. Go to one. So here, you've seen this before, or you may or may not have seen this before. When PUDOs are overlapping, there's usually just a red exclamation marker in there, but you had no way of seeing which PUDOs were overlapping. We've now improved that to see, you can see which PUDO there are that are overlapping. So that is a welcome change for your dispatchers. There was also a small issue when assigning tickets to partners. The schedule ticket button would disappear. Not all partners, but account partners that are using your account. The schedule ticket button would disappear. You could still schedule it other ways, but the schedule ticket button would disappear from the ticket details component. Obviously, we don't want that, so that is back. We also fixed an issue when having dual tickets tabbed here, and you're looking at the history of those tabs, the history of those tickets, having it tabbed. There was an issue that would crash the screen. It crashed all over workplace. You'd have to refresh the page, but that's no longer the case. You can have multiple tabs open and look at the multiple histories of those tickets, and it won't crash the page no more. And we fixed the issue of sometimes, it was always happening, but sometimes when moving tickets around in the timeline, the ticket would disappear until you refresh the page. That obviously is not wanted. So we've now fixed that. So tickets will not disappear when you move them around. So that's a welcome change. So those are the notable ones. Let's see if we have any questions in the meantime. Well, we have a question here. What is the difference between proposed appointment and a fixed appointment? Good question. That question is referring to here. So we have a fixed appointment and it's a proposed appointment. It'll say proposed here. What's the difference? A fixed appointment is something you actually really agreed with the customer. You talked to an end user, said, hey, we're going to be here at this time or in this service window. Are you going to be available? Yes, cool, let's do it. If you didn't get the chance to talk to a customer or the project doesn't require talking to a customer, you can set a proposed appointment. That way it's proposed. It's not customer agreed. It's just agreed with you and your engineer that you'll go at this point. We have another question here. What's the difference between a locked ticket and a locked engineer? That's a good question. The locked ticket, when you lock it, it will stay in that time and stay with that engineer. That it won't move. Once you lock a ticket, it'll stay there. If you lock an engineer and you run the optimizer without locking the ticket to the timeline, the engineer will stay locked, but it could move. You run the optimizer, the ticket will be moved around, but it will not change the engineer. So that is that one. Doesn't look like I have any more questions. So please, if you'd like to learn more, please go check out our manual for further information. We have lots of information in our manual. Please check it out. Leave some feedback in the manual. We always love to get all feedback, negative, positive. We love it all. So please, and thank you for joining today's release meeting. We'll talk to you next time. Goodbye.